picture I ever made, I got paid at least $100,000. Paul Newman and me, we worked together, you know. So I come up with a figure here before I go on.
Well, we'll have to negotiate that.
What is the question now?
Okay, now we don't have another question. We have to ask one. As we talked before, there were a lot of different things that happened in your childhood, and I thought maybe if we talked about the pool table, we might get some idea of what it was like to live on Congress Street. Can one of you tell me something? First of all, tell me how the pool table got to be. I think that Uncle Bill might. Why don't we have Uncle Bill tell us about the pool table? Who made the pool table?
Oh, my dad made the pool table, yeah.
But he had some help, didn't he?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I never saw it being made.
I always thought that he had made it himself.
Mm-hmm. What was it like?
Oh, the regular dimensions, although there was no cushions on the sides.
That's right.
That was the only thing actually wrong with it. But we learned how to shoot pool.
It was regulation size.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the regular dimensions.
And who played on it?
We all did.
Oh, we all did, and then some of the kids in the neighborhood did too. We had a good time with it.
I understand that you had a thing that you did with your friends, with your sister, with the pool table. What did you do? How did you use your sister to fool your friends?
Use my what?
Yeah, use yours. Maybe Margaret. Margaret, you had said that. What did they do?
Well, they used to have the boys come in and I was used to playing on the pool table, and then they would like to have me play with the boys and beat them.
Well, I thought
Friends.
it was something to have them being beaten by you, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, to be beaten by a girl, that was really something.
Some of the other things that happened to you when you were kids. You talked about the playing in the front in the street, and I think Uncle Jim can tell us a little bit about what was it like in the neighborhood when you were playing.
Well, there was quite a few kids about our age there, and we often played hide and go seek and what was the other one?
Kick the can.
Kick the can.
Kick the can. We played baseball right on the street.
Oh, yeah.
There were so few cars in those days that you didn't have to worry about traffic at all. I remember one winter we had snow so deep that they didn't attempt to clear the street, and us kids dug trenches. This was soon after World War I. And we dug trenches across and had snowball fights between the trenches. And that was a lot of fun.
Mm.
You remember that, Bill?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Things you couldn't do out today.
Yeah, that's right.
And then in the backyard, one of you had said something about some bars, jungle bar that Grandpa had rigged up. I don't remember.
Yeah, a pipe.
A pipe?
Yeah, pipe.
Grandpa, she said Grandpa, it was my
yeah,
father.
Yes.
Rigged up a pipe thing that we could chin ourselves on and do various little exercises. It was a lot of fun too. What else?
Oh, I don't know. How about the piano? Margaret, maybe you can. What was?
Oh, I don't know. I started piano lessons when I was quite young. I never did. I never did learn too well, but I learned enough to.
You learned real good, I thought.
I learned enough to enjoy it myself. I could sit by the hour myself and play. But I didn't want to play for any company or anything. I remember playing with Don and then teaching him how to play Donny Boy by just fingering.
Danny Boy, you mean?
Yeah, Danny Boy, yeah.
Mhm.
And, I took for a good many years though.
Mhm.
And in fact, I took some lessons from Doug Rouse that I had met in church, for a number of years, and so forth and so on. But I was never, I was never what you'd call a real good pianist. But I really loved it.
Mhm. And I understand that if the two of you also took other lessons.
Well, I started on banjo, I think it was.
Yeah,
Was
you
it?
did.
Yeah.
You didn't go.
But
But
I didn't get very far with it.
mhm. Did
I took about a year of banjo, and I was never a great. I played for my own amusement mainly, and of course I played all the Scotch songs that Mother and Dad used to like. You know,
Mhm.
I can't even remember, what they were right now. But I knew that they figured, well, they would. They were paying for it. They should have got something out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially in those days, I think the lessons were $1.25 or something like that, and that was a lot of money. I didn't realize it at the time, but I realize it now that they, bent over backwards to have me learn to play the banjo. And right now, I haven't played it for about 20 years, but I'm going to start again so I can get a captive audience like Missy, and I'm sure that she will. I'll sit her down, and the chances are she won't go out for a beer or anything like that. She'll be fascinated, at least at the beginning.
Mhm.
She'll want to start learning to play herself.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And Jim, you took an instrument?
Oh, yes, I took violin lessons for a while. My parents talked me into that, and I never got very far with it, and I didn't particularly like it. It's awfully hard to make good music on a violin. It takes many, many years and a certain feel, or a certain touch, and I didn't have it. So I gave it up.
You have to have a good instrument to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That always helps. Uncle Bill, some of the places that Grandpa worked, can you tell us a little bit about what Grandpa did and some of the places he worked at?
Well, he was a bricklayer and terracotta setter,
Mm-hmm.
and he worked on quite a few of the bigger buildings in the Loop in Chicago. And one particular building was the Tribune Tower. He put some of the terracotta
Mm-hmm.
on the face of the clock on the Tribune Tower. I know that much.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked on quite a few other buildings too, and different. But I can't remember the name of the contractor. Do you remember the name of the
It was,
contractor?
Northwestern Terracotta.
Northwestern Terracotta Company.
Well, he also worked for John Griffith. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I know that name.
John
now.
Griffith.
Oh, he did? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he also worked out of town, too.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
sent out by these
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah.
By that company.
Uncle Jim, can you explain terracotta a little bit so that people understand what it is?
Well, terracotta is a fired clay product, just like the tile that we know today. But this was, the pieces were made in molds and were stacked one on the other, similar to stone. It was very similar to laying up stone pieces. So that's where Dad was good at. So he did a lot of that.
Well, didn't it look like marble in some cases?
Well, it was supposed to imitate marble, I think, but no, it really wasn't.
He did spend some time then going to different locations and working on buildings besides
Downtown.
downtown, right? I mean, out of town and
Yeah,
and so on.
we went to various cities, mostly on repair work, I think it was, replacing pieces that perhaps he had laid years before. pieces that were damaged by weather, cracks developing in them. You know,
And then he worked at that Youngstown, Ohio nunnery, wasn't it?
I don't remember that.
He was in Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah, it was,
I remember
it
that
was
somewhere
a,
too. I don't know what he did.
it was a, what word do I need? Confinement, more or less, for the nuns. And they weren't allowed out, but he repaired not a carport, but a fireplace, I think. And he was only allowed to talk through a little hole to the head nun, and so forth, and so on. But he enjoyed it very, very much. He talked about it a great deal.
All right. If we go back a little bit to when you were younger, some of you went to Scotland. I guess actually all of you did if you consider how Bob went back.
Except Bob. Bob didn't go.
Yeah, I was there, but
Well,
In womb.
in
In the
mother's womb.
Yeah.
She was pregnant with me.
Yes. Margaret, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the trip.
Well, I don't remember too much about the trip, other than I was sick all the way there and all the way back. Seasickness.
Well,
And some old man took care of me, because everybody else was sick too, and so forth. That's about as far as I can remember.
And Jim remembers something too, don't you?
yeah, Margaret, do you remember when we were on the ship? Seems to me we were coming home and there was a big storm, and I think you and I were playing out on deck, and a big wave started coming over the ship, and a sailor, or maybe two of them, grabbed us and took us in behind something to.
Well, I don't
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
I remember
that
hearing
sticks
of
in my
these,
mind.
and, yeah,
Huh?
I remember hearing something about it, yeah. But
Yeah, that's
I don't
the
know.
one thing that sticks in my mind about the ship.
Well, Mrs.
I've
Matheson,
heard that before, yeah.
Mrs. Maggie Matheson, Mom's schoolgirl friend, and her son Donald were with us. I don't really remember too much about it, other than later. I mean, it was brought up in conversations, and I don't know whether he was involved in that or not. In that,
Well, there was two of us playing out on deck. I thought it was you and I.
I don't
Must
know.
have been.
It could very well have been, but.
Yeah. Do you remember anything about being in Scotland? What happened while we were in Scotland?
I remember being bitten by a bee, from the beehive in my mother's father's beehive's place, and they had a terrible time with me. Took me down to the ocean, dipped me in the ocean, washed it off, and so forth and so on, in order to relieve the pain. And that's about as far as I remember of Scotland.
You don't remember the people that we visited too well, huh?
Oh, I don't. I really.
I don't remember
I don't
either.
remember. I don't.
Well, you were all very young.
Yeah,
You
we
were
were
5 years old, so
Yeah.
that means that you were.
Well,
very
I should
young.
have remembered a whole lot more, but I don't.
I remember being carried on the shoulder of one of the men there. That's the other thing that I remember about the trip. Probably the only other thing.
One of Mom's brothers.
I suppose. I don't really know. Some tall man. At least he was tall for me. He seemed tall.
Yeah. Well, it could have been your grandpa too.
Yeah.
I think he was alive when we were there, wasn't he?
I don't
He
remember.
was killed. He was killed on the road. I think soon after we were there.
Going back to our house in Congress Street in the basement, do you remember dancing to music?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The two girls from across the alley from us, what was their names again?
Oh, what, the Rikers?
Rikers.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
We were dancing to music in the basement on the wood floor there.
Yeah.
Did you have a Victrola down there, or
We had something. What was it? Was it a big
radio?
No, well,
or some music?
could have been
Yeah,
radio.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. That was,
I didn't play the violin. I remember. That.
I didn't play the banjo.
You,
I didn't play the piano, that's for sure.
ah, okay, so it had to be some other music. Oh, that's interesting. We were talking about radios, too. That was one of the things that you shared. Can you...
Oh yeah. Yeah. At that time, radio was just coming in. And I remember making crystal sets.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to from earphones. They weren't loud enough for a speaker or anything, just earphones. And I would often go to sleep with the earphones on my head listening to some program. And as I say, that was the early days of radio, and Monday night was silent night. And that was so that we could try to get distant stations. And we sometimes got very long distance, as far as Cleveland, Ohio, once I remember.
Mhm.
You know.
And there was, I don't know, wasn't it spools that had thread on them that you used in the making of the...
Oh, it was for Quaker Oats boxes, the round Quaker Oats boxes.
Yeah.
We wound the wire around that. I've forgotten the number 16 wire, I think it was, covered wire, and you wound that around so many turns, and then you tied it off and you made a connection there, and then so many more turns. It keeps getting larger and larger for some reason or other that I don't remember.
Uh-huh.
And
They were very, very crude, but it was absolutely fascinating to hear the sounds come out of that, you know.
At that time, yeah.
At that time, I mean, it was...
and Dad bought a tube set from Bill Drenthey. You remember that?
Yeah.
And it was a big thing, great big thing. It was about so long, and I think maybe 6 tubes or something like that. And it was battery powered. The batteries didn't last too long, and I remember they went dead one night when Dad was listening to one of the, I think it was the Dempsey fights. I don't remember who it was with. So Dad went out soon after that and bought a converter to get away from using batteries. This was I think it was called a battery converter. Mm-hmm. You plug that into the wall, and then you get electric current into the set that way. That didn't last too long. Pretty soon we had direct power radio sets, you know.
Well, we had that one set that was it was set on a table, and then it was like
Yeah, with the round top.
yeah,
Oh,
the round top.
Yeah.
And then remember at your company, you got that very beautiful cabinet, radio cabinet. That was all hand carved. It was a beautiful thing.
That was from Majestic Radio Company.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Or J.R. Cardwell, our boss and founder, financed that company.
I think didn't they eventually have a television made put in there?
Not in that set.
It was on a stand.
I don't think so, but I did get a television set, but I don't think I got it till after we were married. I think I got that for ourselves.
No,
television.
that was when you got the cabinet. That was before you were married, and it
Yeah,
was
well, see-
radio. It was radio, but I thought that they had the radio taken out and the television just slipped into that.
Well, maybe they did, but I had no
Oh,
part of that.
oh.
I wasn't living there then.
Some of the other things that you did when you were children is you went on some trips together as a family, and I think there's some real interest in it. Some of the let's take Long Lake for instance. What happened there?
This girlfriend's parents, girlfriend of mine, Elsie Deller's parents had a home that was a summer home in Long Lake, and we used to go there for a month in the summer
Mm-hmm.
with the whole family. My dad would come out on weekends, And but where did we go swimming? We went. Yeah, we had to take a boat, didn't we, to go swimming?
Yeah, we were close to a canal, and we kept the boat there. And we'd row in the boat over to the beach, which was maybe half a mile away or something like that. Yeah.
We had our friends come out, and we didn't have enough room for them to sleep, so they'd sleep on the grass, you know, and so forth and so on. Remember Bubby coming out? Remember, and Bubby and
I don't remember him coming.
some of the boys coming and sleeping on the grass. I remember. Bubby.
I remember Frank and Florence.
Oh yeah.
Used to
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah.
Remember they?
Florence Riker, yeah.
Florence
Yeah.
Riker, yeah. They would come out.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the picnics that
The
picnics that you used to go on as a family?
Oh, the Scotch picnics.
Yes,
the 4th
some of the
Ju-
Scotch
That was the
picnics.
4th of July picnics.
Yeah.
4th of July, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
That was it. We used to go to Cozy's Park.
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
correct.
I couldn't remember the name of that. Yeah,
Cozy's
Cozy's.
Park.
KOLZ.
ZES.
Something like
Wasn't
that.
it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Cozy's.
That was a big deal.
What do you remember?
I remember going on picnics to Cozy's Park, and of course the main thing there was the soccer game.
Uh-huh.
There would be two Scotch soccer teams playing against each other, and of course also the girls doing the Scotch dancing, which was always a favorite.
And then and then New Year's Eve we had it. That was a big night for Scotch people, and then we used to go what they call the Hogmanay. That's Hogmanay,
Uh-huh.
and that was entertainment, mostly Robert Burns stuff, and a dance, and of course the Scotchmen. A lot of the Scotchmen wore their kilt outfits and so forth. That was a big deal for Scotch people those days. I remember that very well.
There was an association that Grandma and Grandpa were involved with. That was a Scottish organization. What was the name of that group?
Oh, that was Lady Macduff and Clan Macduff. That was a Scotch organization that they belonged to. And then eventually I joined, so I could go with my mother. I joined, and then also I became an officer in that. And then we also joined the Eastern Star, and I was an officer in that too. But I went mostly so she could go because she really enjoyed it, and it was mostly Scotch people.
There were other trips you took together too. There was a boat trip that you used to take once in a while. Bill, you had said some about the boat trip. Could you tell us a little bit about what you remember of it?
No, we used to take boat trips from the pier.
Navy Pier.
Yeah.
Well, Navy Pier now. It was Municipal Pier at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think we used to go down to Jackson Park.
One way you went to Jackson Park, and the other way you went to Lincoln Park.
Yeah, but I think there was trips that we took to Indiana.
Michigan City.
And the dunes.
Michigan City, did we?
Yeah, in the dunes.
With Auntie Riot. We used to go with Auntie Riot and Mother and Bill and I don't remember Jim or you ever going.
I don't remember
I
going
don't
on
remember
that.
going there either.
Bill and I and Auntie Riot, not Auntie Riot, Auntie Teeny.
Well, I probably was working at that time.
Yeah, probably. Auntie Teeny and Mother and Bill and I would go to take a boat trip to Michigan City, Indiana. We'd have a picnic there, and we'd swim in Lake Michigan and just have a ball. And we'd come home in the evening. We'd go in the morning and come home in the evening.
But we had many picnics right on the end of the pier there. Do you remember that? Just
Oh,
picnics.
yeah.
We didn't take boat rides. Just that time we just had these outdoor picnics. At the end of the Navy Pier or Municipal Piers.
Oh yeah, I guess we did
Bill
go there.
says, yeah.
Municipal Pier. That's right.
You had there was another brother, but I
Can
Well,
somebody?
he was only 10 weeks old when he died.
He was 10 weeks old when he died, and his name was
Jack.
John.
John.
Yeah,
John.
yeah, and they let me name him
And we
because
call him Jack.
Uh-huh.
I was so disappointed that it wasn't a girl. And so my mother let me take care of him and so forth and so on. So I got more attached to him
Mm-hmm.
and so forth and so on. And but anyway, he only lived 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He was born December 23rd. I don't remember the year. And he died February the 10th.
He was the youngest, though, right?
Yeah,
he,
yes,
he was born after
he was
Bob.
he was the last one.
Mm-hmm. We were talking. You mentioned Auntie Raya and Auntie Teeny. Maybe we could fill in a little bit about some of your aunts and uncles and relatives that lived in the area. How about let's start with Uncle Jim because he seemed to be an important factor in all of your lives.
Yeah.
Okay. Margaret, do you want to say?
Yeah, well, Uncle Jim was the oldest one in my dad's family, and my dad was very, very close to him, and they lived just a short distance. Pat probably remembers. I used to take her over there all the time, and his wife was Aunt Teeny. We call her Auntie Teeny, and she was
Christina, I think her name.
Yeah, Christine.
Yeah, and that was. I don't. Well, then he died. He had a heart attack in 1939, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And he died the next morning, and I never got over it. I don't think the boys were as close to him as I was, but I still when I talk about it, I choke.
You had Uncle Jim had said something about what you thought. You remembered Grandpa talking about them when they went to South Africa. Maybe you could fill in a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, in the first place, both Dad and his brother Uncle Jim went to South Africa. This was when the Boer War was on down there. While they were on the boat on their way down, a peace agreement was reached. So they never actually fought down there, but there were many jobs available to them down there, well-paying jobs, better than they would have at home. Putting up buildings for the mine workers or executives. And so they stayed down there and worked. Now, I don't think that Uncle Jim came back to the States at the same time Dad did.
No, I think he came back first.
First, yeah. But Dad first went back to Scotland, as I remember the story. And
he went there to see Mom.
yeah, and they evidently made arrangements to meet later in New York. And Dad went back to South Africa, made some more money, I guess, and then at the agreed date, they both arrived in New York. Dad from South Africa and Mom from Scotland were married at the little church around the corner. Do you remember the date, Mark?
It was September 25th, 1907.
September 25th, 1907.
Yeah.
Okay, then they immediately went to Chicago from there.
Yeah, to Uncle Jim's.
To Uncle Jim's, yeah. And they set up housekeeping by themselves in an apartment. Was that in Cicero?
Well, it could have been, Jim. I don't remember that part of it. The only one I remember.
At any rate, they lived in their own apartment for a while now.
All right, now, other than Uncle Jim and they worked together, right? Uncle Jim and Grandpa worked together from that time on, right?
Well, and then their sister, Agnes's husband, John Stevenson. Remember?
Yeah.
John.
That's Dad's sister.
Yeah, it was Dad's sister. He worked with them too.
They all worked in terracotta or
Yeah,
were
they all,
doing
they
the
all
building
worked for
trade.
the same company. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, down in South Africa probably wasn't terracotta. It
No.
probably was brick and stone, more
yeah.
likely a lot of stone.
Uh-huh.
But Dad made enough money in South Africa. I mean, I think this is very typical of it. Made enough money down there to pay cash for a house. That was one of his hang-ups. You could have anything you wanted as long as you had the money to pay for it. And that's what really why he went down to South Africa, in a sense, to make the money, so forth. Anyway.
Okay. Now there were other sisters that came to this country.
Yeah, well, they all would chip in so much money and bring them over as they wanted to come. But then the First World War interfered, and then Aunt Bess was the only one left, and then they brought her over.
After the First World War.
After the First World War.
But did Auntie Raya come over before?
Oh, she was over, I think, before Dad, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And Auntie Raya is who?
And then
That's
Auntie Ag. She came. I think she came with Auntie Raya. The two, my dad and my uncle, paid their way to get them out of Scotland.
But Mark, Aunt Bess, Annie Bess, didn't they have trouble in the boat? Did the boat sink? Didn't she come over towards the end of the war?
Yeah. It seemed to me that I know she had a friend that was rescued in the water, because this lady, well, she was an English lady, really, and she was at the house. I can't remember her name, and I don't know whether Aunt Bess was on that same boat or not.
I understood that the boat was Torpedo, the boat that Auntie Bess was on.
Well,
And she was
probably so.
picked up. I think I remember that.
Okay, how about, and so then they came to the United States, and all of you, you had family gatherings with your aunts and uncles?
Well, they used to come to the house, regularly, yeah.
And then, about Auntie Ryan, didn't she come, was it Thursday was her day off?
Yeah. Well, she used to come on Thursdays. Was her day off from working, and then I had to get all dressed up. I had to have a dress and a hat, gloves, and so forth and so on. So I, looked like a little lady. And then she'd take me downtown to a restaurant, and so forth and so on. And that was a big deal. That was a big deal for me because I was only about 7 or 8 years old.
Okay. Now let's go on. You all went to the same grammar school, am I correct? Which was?
Sumner Grammar School, yeah.
And that must have been close to your home, right?
It was within walking distance.
Okay. And after grammar school, this is where the story gets real interesting. Let's start with Margaret. Where did you go to school after?
Well, I went, actually it was under the direction of Austin High School, but it was not Austin, because it was a grammar school on the northwest side. Or, I think it was
Or
something.
It was,
Okay.
yeah.
Huh?
It was
Or.
Okay. And that's where you went to school?
I went there for 2 years.
Okay. And then you went on to a business
Then I
school.
took, I took a business course a year, Metropolitan Business College.
And then let's go to Jim. Where did you end up going to high school?
Well, I went to Crane Tech. I remember that when I went to sign up for high school, I went to Austin first, and it was overcrowded. There were too many students applying. So somebody suggested going to Crane, which was a good suggestion. At any rate, I went to Crane Tech, east of where we lived. Went on the L, was an L ride to it, Western Avenue, or near Western Avenue. west side.
I think you got a better education than you would have gotten in
Well, I think so too. It was a good education. But I only went 3 years. And,
Oh, I thought you went 4.
no,
Okay.
never graduated.
Okay.
But I went there 3 years. And all the time I was going, I was ushering at various theaters, part-time when I was going to school. And then when I left school, I worked full-time for a while until I went to work for Cargill Westinghouse Company in 1929.
And Bill, you went to school where?
At Sumner
No,
Grammar-
high school.
Grammar
Yes,
School.
yes, in high school.
I went to Crane Tech for 3 years, same as Jim. And then I went to, then I dropped out of school for 6 months. Then I went to Austin and graduated from Austin.
And what did you do?
He didn't do anything.
She knows what I did, so I'll have to tell her. Pauline, you want to what? You want to listen to this?
I am.
I think maybe I told her. When I graduated from Sumner, and I found that I was out of the district for Austin. I could go to Marshall, but
That was a no-no.
I happened to have
Wanted to go there.
I happened to have a girl friend that she didn't graduate with us. She went out to Austin Grammar School, and she graduated from there, and I graduated from Sumner. So I didn't want to go to Marshall. She was going to go to Austin, so I gave a friend of Jim's address in Austin. Minor?
Bud Minor?
Yeah, he didn't move out to Austin?
He did, yeah. Yeah, he lived
And
across the street from us.
Yeah, and then they moved out to Austin, and I gave their address, and of course I could get in there then. And I went to Austin for 3.5 years before anybody found out about it. And the way they found out about it,
I goofed it up. When I went there,
Well, let me
they
finish
checked
my-
on me.
oh, did they? The way they found out about it was that about 6 months before I was going to graduate, they sent a letter home, supposedly home, to the address, and I hadn't put my name on the mailbox, of course. They didn't even know that I gave their address, as a matter of fact. So the principal called me in and wondered, he says, how come, that you don't live in the district and you're going to Austin? And I said, well, I gave a phony address because I gave them the whole story. So they looked up my record, and it was a pretty good record. I didn't have too many D's, so they said okay. So then, of course, I went through Austin High School, graduated from there.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl and I, of course, went separate ways after that. I don't think I ever saw her again.
Devious.
But anyway, that was.
Thank you.
Did you know that story before?
Yes, I did. That was why I wanted
By
to
the
ask
way,
it.
the girl's name was Rosalie Harris. I don't know if you ever met her.
So really, you and Bill really went illegally to high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he went legally.
Well, we never liked the people that went to Marshall.
Obviously, that's what all 4 of you said.
Well, that
you
was
didn't
one of the
like Marshall.
reasons. That was the main reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it,
Yeah. Anyway, while you were in high school, you did a lot of other things like most kids do. Can any of you tell us anything about what it was like being a teenager in the Legge household? What
there was nothing unusual.
There was nothing. See, it doesn't seem unusual to you, but it was your childhood. I guess we have to talk about, what. Okay, let's give an example. You all had some kind of, the boys all had some kind of jobs, working outside of the house, at least.
Yes.
Yeah, were an usher, right? And,
Oh, I was an usher while I was in high school and for a short while afterward.
uh-huh.
But while I was even when I was in grammar school, I had a newspaper route,
Uh-huh.
and I had a newsstand with Bud Miner.
Yeah.
He and I had a newsstand together for a while, right close to the house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But all three of you sold newspapers at some point.
Yeah, we all did.
And one of the other things you told me is you all had bikes. Am I correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that unusual? I said, did all the kids in the neighborhood have bikes?
Oh, every boy had a bike.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Those
That's the way we got around.
uh-huh.
Oh, sure.
Well, you
But
didn't
I was gonna
have
say,
to worry
didn't
about
you work for a
cars. There
butcher?
wasn't that many
Yeah.
of them in those
I worked for
days.
the butcher for several years.
You worked for a butcher?
I worked for him a short time too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Delivering.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I remember we had a basket in front of my bike,
yeah, that's right.
and I had a couple of dozen eggs in it one time. And I ran over a stone or something and dumped the whole thing in it. I broke about half the eggs, I think. I had to go back and get a new supply of eggs.
We both worked in a meat market.
Yeah.
too.
I don't think Jim worked in the same meat market that we. Harry Goble.
There you go, that's where that's the one I
didn't
delivered
know.
for.
I don't remember you working for him.
It wasn't very long, but I did
I
work
worked
for
for
him.
him, Bill worked for him, and
He lived across the alley from us,
yeah, that's
remember
right.
that?
Harry,
Harry Goble.
There we go.
Remember
Only
Harry?
meat- only
Oh,
meat-
yeah.
Harry Goble.
The meat market.
He had the meat market.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he used to save veal kidneys for me. Somebody bought veal chops and didn't want the kidney. He put them aside and then he'd give them to me when I went in.
Mhm.
See, I'd like to mention something
Sure.
that happened at that time. This was during World War I now. And there was a butcher lived down on Kilburn Avenue, right close to us. Krause's Butcher Shop. Remember that? And at any rate, he was a German.
Mhm.
And he thought Germany was right in everything that they did. And he talked it up too much, you know. People got down on him. Anyway, one Halloween, a bunch of the boys borrowed a wagon, horse and wagon, from Johnson's yard there, Johnson's
Johnson's Ice, yeah.
Coal yard.
Yeah.
That was only a block or so away. They borrowed a big wagon, and they went around the alleys and they filled it full of tin cans and anything and everything they could get a hold of. And they pulled it by hand. There were no horses, you know, but there was enough kids. There were a bunch of kids. And they took it down to this Krause's meat market, backed it up to the door, and dumped this whole load right on this
I don't remember
front
that.
door. Don't you remember that?
No, that's before my
Oh,
time.
well, that was during the war. It was maybe 1916 or 17. I can remember it.
Mhm.
And so that supposedly took care of him. I don't remember him after that. It was a long time before he opened up again. If he did open up, I don't remember. But I remember that.
Well, Harry Goble was German too, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, but he wasn't that way.
No.
He was English. Harry Goble
Was he?
English.
He
He
was
was English
Well,
accent.
Well,
Mueller was.
but he looked like he
German.
really looked like.
He was a lieutenant or something, even higher than that in the
Oh, was
English.
He was a very nice man.
Oh yeah.
If when we were talking about the three of you had jobs, you didn't work outside of the home. Margaret, tell us.
Yes,
a
I
little
did. When I went
Oh.
when I was in business college the whole year.
Oh, that's right.
I went to school from 9 to 3, and I worked at the telephone company from 4 to 10
Mm-hmm.
for at least a year. So I mean, I paid my own way all the way
Mm-hmm.
through,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I did it, was working. Anyway, I was too young. They would get you weren't allowed to work until you were 17, unless you went to school at least one day a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to school full time,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But
But at home, one of the things that I think is important to the way all of you are is some of the things that happened at home. What was it like being raised in basically a European setting for each one of you? And this is where I noticed a real difference in your story. What was it like for you?
I think the only difference was that my mother had the idea that the boys had nothing to do in the house or anything, you know. But I was expected to, I did the grocery shopping from a small, fairly small child. And I did part of the yarning. I mean, it was no big chore, but I mean, you know, but the boys were not supposed to do anything like that. I mean, that was her bringing up.
It's European style.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, it was European style, and when she was the youngest of the family, in her own family, and so they kept her at home, and then she was like her mother's helper. I mean, that's how this all originated, and she was the fall guy, like I was, more or less, you know. But anyway, it didn't bother me. I mean, it didn't hurt me one little bit, but.
The other three, do you recall having things to do at home, any kind of chores you had to do, or was it really pretty much?
Thinking for me, I didn't have a chore. She would send us out once in a while to, you know, get a bottle of milk or something like that. But I didn't have anything I had to do. I was free. I could.
Well, they had their paper routes. See, they were on the. That's
outside of the paper routes.
But otherwise, you were pretty much free to.
Nothing to do in the house except play pool and punch on the punching bag.
Oh, you have a punching bag. I forgot about
That was I used to have all the kids in the neighborhood over to either play pool after school, you know, and then we play pool and punch the bag, and nobody ever questioned about the noise that we were.
It was a racket.
Going downstairs, but Mom never told me to stop, or Dad never told me to stop. And then we had a dog that was really something else. His name was Teddy. And the boys could come in the house and bring their books after school, but God help them if they ever tried to take their books out of the house, out of the basement with, you know.
He thought they were stealing.
He thought they were stealing. I'd have to hold them by the collar so the kids could go home. Yeah.
Oh, he was some special dog.
He was a very protective dog. When Donnie was a very small baby, and he put him, we used to put him in that cart, push cart. What do they call that, Ruth?
Walker.
Go-kart.
Dog?
Walker.
A walker,
Yeah,
okay, a walker. And Teddy would be right alongside of him all the time when Dad was pushing him out on the sidewalk. And nobody could even talk to Donnie.
And he was the same with Pat.
Well, I don't remember Pat so much, but Donnie I remember distinctly.
Well, I can remember Pat used to have her little tantrums once in a while, and she'd lay on the floor, and the dog would get between you and Pat. You wouldn't dare touch her. Remember that, Pat?
No, I don't remember.
I remember.
I never had a tantrum.
I remember.
That's recorded. All right. With all of the things that were going on in your home, you also had time to do some other things. And maybe, Dad, you can share what happened the time that you ended up in jail.
Oh, yeah. About four of us boys we used to go dancing about 3 times a week. And this was on a Saturday night. I was about 17, I guess. And the other boys with me were 16, 17 in that case. There was 4 of us. And we came out of this dance hall this night, and we had all been drinking. And beer, it was only beer. We weren't drinking any hard liquor. Anyway, this one boy, he couldn't take the beer, so he got pretty well drunk. On the way home, across the street from the dance hall, there was a gas station, and it was closed for the night. And this was about 12 o'clock. And we walked past past the station, and this boy, I don't know, he looked in the gas station and he saw his picture. You know, at that time they had mirrors on the gas pumps, and he saw his face in there, and I guess he thought it was somebody else, and he put his hand through the glass. Well, unluckily enough, I should say, there was a police car across the street, and they were watching for guys. Evidently, there had been people doing that before. So, of course, they got all four of us, and all four of us went to jail. And, of course, well, I think maybe you were in California at the time. I don't know. Anyway, they called all our parents, and my dad came down, and he looked at me, and he thought I was drunk. You know, that's what they told him. All four of us were drunk, so Dad said, "You stay in there till you sober up." See? And he went home. In the meantime, two boys I were with, two brothers, Len and Bob Ott, their father was a state representative at that time. So they let Len call his father, who was, I like to say, a state representative. And he told him the situation. This was about 3 o'clock in the morning, or 4 o'clock. And he called his father, and his father called back, and of course they released the three of us. Mm-hmm. The way they knew that this other kid was the culprit, he had bleeding hands, so he must have been the only one.
Put his hand through the
Only one. So us three got out, and I don't know, he had out the next day or so or two, and he was put on probation. We were completely cleared. Our names were scratched off the book, and which politicians could do in that day. Probably they still can in Chicago.
I'm sure they.
So that was.
Bill, you're the other criminal in the family, aren't you? Weren't you in jail there for something, automobile accident or something? Dad and I came down and got you out.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh, I remember that. Fillmore gas station, Fillmore police station. Don't you remember that?
No.
Sure.
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah.
I'm the only clear one in the family.
Yeah. This is just taking some of your skeletons out of the closet. That's all.
I think I'll have to see my lawyer first.
Probably. Let's see. Are there any other things that about your childhood that you think were fun or interesting or?
I could tell you one about when we were all, this is another case of the police. We were all out in the street playing ball, and all of a sudden one of the guys takes the ball and throws it up at the street light and breaks the bulb. Well, this happened to be in front of a policeman's house. And they ran out.
Graham.
Huh?
Graham, there was.
Graham, I guess it was.
Yeah.
They ran out, and for some reason or other, they grabbed me. I didn't throw the ball, but I was with them. So there I was. They took me home. They marched me home to Dad and Mom, and I was telling them all the way that I didn't break that thing, but I wouldn't give the name of the kid who did it, and his name, I'll give it now, is Harry Riker. And he was the one that threw the ball to break the glass, but
I bet he never admitted it either.
he never admitted it, and I didn't want to rat on him, so they took me, and they took me home, and I swore up and down that I didn't do it, and they said, well, who did? So I wouldn't tell them. So I think Dad and Mom had to pay for the lights.
Well, these people were from the old school, and they had no use for us. They had 2 granddaughters, and they were not even allowed to speak to me because I was Protestant and they were Catholic. And that was the only incident we ever had in our neighborhood was these particular people, and that's why they took it out
On the Legge boy.
on the Legge boys. But Dad then, as I recall, he put the window in, didn't he
I
himself?
think so, but he not it wasn't a window, it was a street light. It
Oh.
was a street light.
Well, there was a window
they
involved
had
in
they
it.
had they had to pay for it, I'm sure.
It's worse and worse. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
But I didn't go to jail that time.
well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad. You lived in a multi-ethnic community.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Your neighbors were on one side were
Irish.
Jewish on one side.
Jewish on one side,
Irish on the other.
on the other, and so you had a lot of different. But in your neighborhood, you had a lot of different kids
Oh, yes.
that you played
But
with.
the kids got along fine. It was
Yeah, the kids got along all right.
yeah. There was no incidents whatsoever with the kids, but it was the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the parents, not all.
Let's see. I think that you've shown a lot here, and then, unless you have something else, I'd just like to close. But I think maybe Jim had said something about his parents, and I thought maybe it would be fitting if you said something about what Grandma and Grandpa were like, what you thought of them as a...
Well, they were fine parents, and they did their utmost for us always. And they lived, I think, for us and for the home. That was the whole thing. So,
They lived just for us.
yeah, that's what it amounted to.
The two of you want to add to?
Yeah, I'd like to add this about talking about the ethnic, people in the neighborhood who were all the same. For example, to give a good example of that, we had a baseball team, and the first baseman was Jewish. Bill was the second baseman. I was the shortstop. We had a Swede playing third base or catching, and we had the guys out in the outfield who were German. I mean, it was like the League of Nations ball team, wasn't that right, Bill?
Yeah.
Everybody, I don't think there was, outside of Bill and I, we were the only two of the same, national origins. So.
But I mean, that was that generation that, and they had come out of this ethnic business, or we had come out of it by that time.
But I'd like to comment on that. I think there were Italians in the neighborhood too. Not many, but some. And one of the boys that went to school with me in my class, Ed Mullins, his name was, he married one of the Italian girls who also graduated from grammar school with us. And that was really upset the whole neighborhood. An Irish boy marrying an Italian. Now, they were both Catholic, so that didn't enter. It wasn't the religion. It was just the Italians and Irish. Nobody ever heard of that before. They just didn't do that, Yeah.
But that was that crazy generation. But it just gradually, forgot about it,
I'd like to have the last remarks here whenever you're through with the rest of it. Go ahead.
Okay. Back to what we said about Grandma and Grandpa, what kind of parents they were. And
What?
What kind of parents they were. You were saying that they lived...
They lived, they had very few friends outside of the family. But their whole lives were around us.
Around the family,
Yeah, and that was the only thing that mattered,
Uncle Jim, you said something about the Depression and how it affected all of you and growing up.
Well, because the Depression started in 29 and it ran through 36 and into 37. And it affected everybody, but it got to a point where it was a way of life. You just got, after that many years, you assumed that it was going to go on forever. And, Ruth and I got married in 33. And you'd say, gee, it was right in the bottom of the Depression. Well, it was. It was in the bottom of the Depression. But here, the thing had gone on since 29, and for all we knew, this is the way it was going to be the rest of our lives. So we went ahead and got married. It turned out pretty good. I have troubles at times with her, but
I think that what I was looking for was as children, when Grandpa was out of work, how did that affect all of you?
I don't think we ever wanted for anything. I don't
Never.
remember.
no, we never wanted to.
Never.
We never knew they had any money troubles or anything else, though I know they did borrow some money from Andy Riot.
Yeah, but they paid her back.
They paid her back.
And they lost money at the
Garfield Bank.
When
Oh,
the banks-
Garfield Bank went broke,
Yeah,
yes,
they-
right.
I think they got 20% back, 20 cents on the dollar back. That's about all they got, I think.
They had about $2,000 or $3,000 in it, and that was their life savings.
That was a heck of a lot of
And
money.
at that time, that was a lot of money.
An awful lot of
What's
money
the
in
matter?
those days.
What are you doing?
All right.
Geez, there must be an easier way to turn that off.
You got a mouse in here.
Yeah. So you never lacked for anything. You weren't even aware of their financial problems at the time, is it?
No.
You were insulated from all that. They protected you from all that.
They never talked about it in front of us.
Never. Absolutely never.
Anything else? Okay. You wanted to make a comment at the
Yes.
end.
I'd just like to say that our interrogator, or master of ceremonies, has been Linda Legge, Bob's wife. She's done a very, very good job, not only in
Bob's daughter.
conducting this, but also in making all the arrangements in the first place. She's done a tremendous job. We thank her.
Yeah,
You
we
do
gotta
it.
give
All
her.
of us do.
We gotta get Linda on camera. I don't know if I can do it.
Good, I don't want
I just snapped it off. Where are you? I can't find you.
Well, we must mention the camera woman because she's excellent.
Oh, the camera woman is looking for the...
Hello, does that
Oh,
help?
there she is.
Yeah,
All I
I'm
can see
still-
was the lamp.
Now get a picture of the camera woman.
Yeah, turn around.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Okay.
I'm trying to get
Might as
the...
well get the whole.
Why
Yes, now, you know what I'd like? I'd like to get all the rest of us in there now.
Okay, we're running.
Okay.
The camera is running.
Well, hello, and,
That's Linda, the interrogator.
right.
Why don't you get her impression?
Please, I would like all of you to come and be part of it. Oh, okay, she's going to pan it. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Pauline, I'm looking at Pauline. Hi, Pauline. Kathy.
Hi.
Jay.
I'm Jay. Hi. I enjoyed the television show here this afternoon.
Don't overdo it, Jay.
Mother. That's Ruth, Jim Legge's wife. My mother.
Okay.
And I can't find Leona. And there's Leona. Okay. Okay. Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, goodbye.
I was going to say, give your impression of Grandma and Grandpa.
I can't. Now what do I do?
That was good. That was good.
Wait a minute. Now we're...